Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Meek again, and today we are going to go through some of the luxury VIP spending thresholds at different brands. I actually sent this as an email newsletter last week to those of you on the email newsletter list. So if you're not on the email newsletter list, you are missing out, and I'm going to just give you guys an excerpt of what I shared in the email newsletter. The email newsletter was super detailed. It took me a very long time to write that email newsletter, so the people who read it, please drop a comment below and convince other people to sign up to the newsletter because it took a long time to create. I'm putting a lot of effort and energy into the email newsletter. I would love to have you there. So subscribe, it's linked below, and then make sure you authenticate your subscription or you won't get the email. Okay. All right, so today we're going to talk about the top VIP spending tiers at different brands. And like I said, in the email newsletter, it was super detailed. There was a ton of information about how much you need to spend to be a VIP at different brands. I think this information is very helpful, and I think it helps us kind of understand like what brands are looking for. And again, these are not real problems. Being a VIP at a brand doesn't really matter. Whether you're a VIP or not, who cares? But some people are interested and some people may care. So this is a video for them. Please don't watch this and have a moan and say that you don't care, okay? Don't come here and moan and whinge about this stuff. Let's start off with Dior, honey. I think that Dior is a brand that treats VIPs well. I've spoken to many of you guys who are Dior VIPs. I've also done a lot of research, like I said, on my own, but also spoken to people directly when I was like before writing the newsletter. And Dior seems to be a brand that really does prize like the top clients. So each store, and this is how it works at Dior based on what people have told me, each store will have a group of people who are considered VIPs. And then one or two people for each store will be invited to fashion shows throughout the year. Obviously, we know Dior does Prêt-à-Porter, and they also do couture as well. And they also do the men's show as well as a separate show. So in terms of VIP spending, the numbers that I have been told by Dior VIPs and from researching it on my own is $100,000 in the US per annum. And then in the EU, it's a similar number of 120,000 euros. Now, I think if you look at that spending, Dior being such a ready-to-wear heavy brand and Dior also having fine jewelry and high jewelry, Dior also makes fur, you can probably see where you can like spend in order to reach that level. But something which I was told by one of the Glamazons who used to shop at Dior is that if you're invited to the fashion show, you are expected to spend, you're expected to like literally watch, as you're watching the fashion show, like the catwalk show when you're there, you're expected to find looks because they'll take you to a Risi event where you are then expected to say, I'm going to order this whole look. I'm going to order this like entire look, like from head to toe. So that is something also I think to kind of be aware of as well, is that if you are invited to the fashion show, it's not just like for you to have a good time there. They will absolutely expect you to spend, and Dior definitely expects their top spenders to spend accordingly, because there is basically a lot of pressure riding on your SA, the store manager who nominated you to be invited, and then also like the people in Paris who will be receiving you for the fashion show. So that's something to note as well. Chanel's VIP spending operates differently in the US because in the US they have a lot of tiers. It's my understanding that to be invited to the fashion show, you need to be in the spending tier in the US in dollars of around 150,000 USD per annum in ready to wear mainly. And you need to spend that at one store and give that money to one boutique. If you can get your spending to 150,000 USD at one store in a year, you probably will receive a fashion show invitation for the ready-to-wear shows. Obviously, if you're a couture client, you're going to be invited to the fashion show. When I spoke to a Chanel VIP, she told me that she felt like it might even be easier to be invited to couture, like the couture fashion show, because the threshold for spending, while it may be higher, you may actually get away with ordering less things. Like you may order maybe two garments or maybe one garment, and then you can also be invited. In Europe, in the EU specifically, the VIP spending number for Chanel is 120,000 euros a year. So that's something to put out there, and they really want to see that like ready to wear spending. They want to see that fine jewelry spending, and obviously if you're someone who can buy high jewelry, Chanel created the category. Fun fact about high jewelry, obviously if you can do that, they are going to be inviting you to things as well. The next one that I wanted to talk about is Big H. Now, Big H is a complex one. This is probably the one that is the hardest to get the information on. And that's because, like, their thresholds for VIPs mean different things. From what I have gleaned from research and speaking to people who have been invited to the fashion show, the VIP spending in Europe, the threshold is lower than the VIP spending requirements for the US and for Canada. So if you're in the US and Canada, they're going to expect you to spend more to be invited to go to the show, versus people who are in the EU who can spend less, but they still have to spend six figures. So in Europe, the number I was told was 120,000 euros per annum. And then in the US, it seems to be a range depending on the store, anything from 150,000 USD to $250,000 a year, in order to be considered a VIP client and to be in the running to be invited to the fashion show. The people who are American VIPs who've gone to the fashion show spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year at the brand. We're talking like 300, 400K. That seems to be a number that people say, like, okay, that will get you on the radar of the fashion show. That seems to be a lot to me, like $250,000 buying Big H prêt-à-porter, and not being invited, whereas you could take that money and spend that at Chanel, at Louis Vuitton, and you end up getting invited. So let me know what you think about that. What do you think about Big H having a much higher threshold for VIP spending? Is that something that bothers you? Is that something that you think is okay? Like, what are your thoughts on that as well? The next one I want to talk to you guys about is Louis Vuitton. Again, Louis Vuitton has different thresholds for different regions. A few years ago, many years ago, I remember hearing a number for the UK specifically, which to me was relevant a few years ago. I don't think that number is correct for today because it seems low for today. But I remember a number being thrown around for the UK was like £60,000 in a year in the top tier category, so like ready to wear, hard sided, and things like that. That seems low to me for Britain for today. It's probably more than that. But a more recent number for the European Union, again, is at 100,000 to 120,000 euros per annum number, again, in their top tier categories that they're prioritizing. So objet nomade, the hard-sided pieces, exotics, ready to wear, their fine jewelry, and their high jewelry. So those are like the things that they're looking for. They're not looking for people who want to spend like most of that money buying canvas, like handbags and things like that. That's not going to get you the fashion show invitation. The fashion show invitation is going to people who are spending 100,000 euros, 120,000 euros on those categories I just mentioned. And then in the US, the number again seems to fluctuate depending on where people are. But the number that a few glamazons have told me who are in America who are Louis Vuitton VIPs that I was told was $250,000 for the fashion show invitation. That's the number that I was told. So again, if you were told something else, that's fine. But people who have been to the fashion show who are from the States have told me that they spent 250,000 USD and were invited to a fashion show, because obviously Louis Vuitton on the women's side has a ton of fashion shows. And the people who are invited are women. So I'm talking about the women's fashion show. I don't know the spending requirements to be a VIP on the men's side. So if you know what spending is required, then you will let me know. So that is just a taste of some of the things that I put in the newsletter. I put a lot of brands in the newsletter, but those are the ones that I wanted to bring to you guys here. And then I also wanted to mention some things which I just been reading, that I had heard that I thought was really interesting, and then also some things from a few years ago. For example, this year, Chopin invited their top VIP clients to the Cannes Film Festival. You know that they sponsor that. So they invited a bunch of their top VIP clients to the Cannes Film Festival. Obviously, that means that these VIPs will be, you know, networking with celebrities and things like that. The jewelry girls are known for, you know, they really need you to spend that six-figure amount, you know, 100,000 a year, 100,000 pounds a year, $100,000 euros, and so on and so forth to be considered like a VIP. I know that at Vissé and Cartier, the number is 100,000 in most of the sort of Western currencies. And yeah, I thought that Chopin tidbit was really interesting. I remember reading that in a news article and thinking that was so fascinating. That's a great way of like giving the VIPs that like glamorous, decadent experience. Like, we're going to fly all of our VIPs to the Cannes Film Festival where there are a ton of celebrities because we sponsor the Cannes Film Festival. Great. I mean, I think that's just a fantastic way of just making people feel special. I think a few years ago, Moschino had an event in Monte Carlo, in Monaco, and they invited a ton of their like top spenders as well. I remember hearing something about that. Again, glamorous, beautiful, decadent. I feel like when the girls do things like that, when they, for example, when Louis Vuitton are launching high jewelry, it'll be in some beautiful location. They'll fly their VIPs out. For some reason, I feel like the jewelry girls seem to understand this VIP stuff very well, and they seem to know how to treat people really well. What do you guys think about the VIP threshold, the spending levels? And what do you think about the fact that, of like what I said about Dior, like you will be expected to spend once you've been invited to the fashion show, you're expected to pre-order when you're there after seeing the fashion show. What are your thoughts on all of that? I cannot wait to hear everything. But like I said, the full tea was in the newsletter, so you guys are just missing out, and that is such a shame. So I don't want you to miss out. So go subscribe. First of all, subscribe to the channel and subscribe to the newsletter. What do you think about VIP spending, the top tier spending at the brands? Do you think that this can be sustained? Do you think that brands shouldn't focus on VIPs, and should focus on people who can basically who are not spending as much, or do you think that they should focus on the top spenders? Look, in business, you have to focus on the top spenders. Top spenders will just spend. They just, generally speaking, they spend more, which is a good thing. While they're less top spenders than there are people who can just spend at a sort of normal level. It costs the same amount of marketing money to market to a top spender than it does to market to people who are not spending as much. Meaning, the marketing and sales team of these top tier brands are using the same energy to sell £100,000, €100,000 necklace at Bulgari than they're using the same energy to sell something which is like considerably less money. So that's why they prefer to focus on the top spenders. I really hope that you liked this video. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel, and stick around. We're gonna have so much fun for the next 6 months of the year. I'm so excited about my trips. I'm so excited about all the content that's coming. I cannot wait for you guys to see everything. So stick around with me and don't leave. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and sign up to the newsletter. God bless you all. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon in my next video.